So at 11 o'clock a.m., while the kids were in class and people were at jobs that they hate, Kendrick Lamar drops Euphoria. Not a song from Euphoria, not from the TV show. No, no, no. It's the ultimate, Euphoria is the ultimate diss song against Drake. This song is magnificent. Kendrick rhymes over 3 different beats. He changed his cadence. He changed the pitching in his voice. This might be one of the greatest tracks he's ever made. And it's all spurred from Drake starting this whole beef with him, which then Rick Ross got involved. But it's great for all these guys. All these guys who were around 10 years ago, Ross, Drake, Future, Kendrick. This is really good for hip hop because hip hop in its present form is just trash. It's if Sexy Red is the best, is one of the best of your best, that's not a good thing. Now again, I wouldn't mind a Sexy Red if you had a Lauryn Hill or even a Salt and Pepper or Missy Elliott counteracting her, right? It's like, okay, here's Sexy Red's thing. She talks about crazy stuff, but we have Missy over here, so this is fine. But no, we don't have that. We just have a lot of chicks rapping about sex and a lot of twerking. I mean, God bless them for making money, but man, do better. And even from the guys too, there's not a lot of great MCs out there from the fellas side. There's a few, but there's a lack of greatness. So for Kendrick, when he dropped the High Steppers album, that album just felt like he was just doing stuff. I think Kendrick was bored because To Pimp a Butterfly was like his Songs in the Key of Life, and there's nothing he could have made after that would have been equally as great. But also, he didn't have anybody. There was nobody challenging him. When he went away, I think he probably thought, okay, I'm going away. There'll be some great rappers when I come back, so I can battle them. He had nobody to battle. He had nobody. I mean, Drake was still doing his thing, but for the most part, there was nobody. He dropped out. Kendrick dropped out after the Black Panther soundtrack, and he came back, and it was nothing. Nobody to battle. And I think dude was bored. So thank you, Drake, for your initial record, because it kicked him into high gear. Also, it helped Rick Ross. It helped all these guys. So let me read you this post from X. This guy was saying, people saying that they've lost interest in the beef between Kendrick and Drake because it took Kendrick 10 days to respond. Y'all would have hated pre-Twitter rap beefs. There were 3 months in between the Takeover by Jay-Z and Ether by Nas. And he's absolutely right. I remember when Kool dropped How You Like Me Now. And I think that came out in November of 87. I think LL dropped Jack the Ripper in January of 88. And that was a few months in between. And that track was amazing because it was the B-side of Going Back to Cali. And Going Back to Cali was a great track. It was different for LL. I think Rick Rubin produced it. The video was really good. And it came from the Less Than Zero soundtrack, which featured Robert Downey Jr. as a young dude, a fluent guy who was on drugs, which basically he mirrored that life in the 90s for the most part. You've never seen Less Than Zero, check it out. But man, when Jack the Ripper came out, it was nothing but LL just ripping Kool D. It is magnificent. And if I have to rank like the top diss tracks of all time, Nas's Ether, I don't think there's nothing that can top Ether. LL Jack the Ripper, Ice Cube No Vaseline, Jay-Z Takeover, and I would say Dre Day with Snoop and Dre. And even with Jay-Z and the Nas thing, because Jay-Z dropped Takeover first, and then Nas dropped Ether, and then Jay-Z came back with Super Ugly. And Super Ugly, for anybody else, would have been a great diss track. But after Ether, it's kind of like, nah, Hov, Nas got you on that one. And I think that's the same thing with Kendrick. I think Kendrick, when it comes to Euphoria, he might have made a track. When Drake dropped his diss track, Kendrick might have went into the studio and made something. But he was like, nah, I can do better. That's why it took like 10 days. I could really see Kendrick telling his people, give me a USB hard drive on everything on Aubrey Graham, which is Drake's name, if you don't know. Now I can see Kendrick going to a small, dark room with a table and a chair and a laptop with one single light. And and Kendrick just watching all these videos and watching reading all these articles about Aubrey and just writing stuff down on his notepad. And then after 5 days, eyes bloodshot, walking to the studio saying like, I'm ready. And when you listen to Euphoria, it's just relentless because it starts off like just like a cool R&B old school track, and he just starts ripping. And the best thing about that track, he raps over 3 different tracks. He changes his cadence. He changes his voice. Like, he's doing a lot of different things he's never done before. Like, this spurred something in him, which is just unbelievable. Euphoria is, if not one of the best diss tracks of all time. It's probably maybe the best tracks of 2024. Like, it's going to be interesting when this year ends, when they list the top hip hop songs of the year, if Euphoria is in the top 3, because I believe it should be. So the question is, what's Drake going to do? Now, Drake could drop another diss record, and he might, but will it be like Jay-Z's Super Ugly, where he puts something out and the people's kind of like, nah. Kendrick got you on this one. But it's unbelievable that these kids, they're over the beef already after 10 days because Kendrick took his time. And that's the thing. Like, if you ask teachers what's one of the worst things about teaching these days, and they say it's kids not paying attention. And we did this. We created, as adults, we created social media, TikTok, 140 characters on Twitter. Like, we made kids change the way they think. It's hard for them to think long term. Like, even writing papers. I remember, like, a few years ago, I was talking to a professor, and he said kids coming out of high school, going into college, they just don't know how to write long papers. And again, I remember when I went to college, when they said, well, you need to write a 10-page paper. I was like, what's that? 10 pages. And that was back then. So if these kids are so used to texting or using shorthand, and you're telling them, I need to write a 10-page paper, I was like, I don't know. I don't know how professors and teachers are doing it, but hey, we got to help these kids out. So what's your favorite diss record of all time? Euphoria still mine. I still love Jack the Ripper, but man, Euphoria, kudos to Kendrick Lamar. He has reaffirmed himself as one of the main wordsmiths in hip hop, and just the way that he dissected Drake on this track is just unbelievable. And it's a beautiful thing for hip hop. It got us away from the twerkers and the sex talk, and actually got us back to MCing.